Hello and welcome to your Living a Course in Miracles call. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020. My name is Jared Krebs. I'm here in San Antonio, and we have a special guest on the call today, Mr. Pablo Arango, who is a dear friend, a Course in Miracles expert, someone who has spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours reading the Course, all of Ken Wapnick's books, all of Gary Renard's books, and just a true friend and mentor to me. And we're going to be learning from him today. He's going to be answering questions, sharing his story, and you are in for a real treat to learn from Mr. Pablo Arango. Welcome to the call, Pablo.
Thanks, man. That's a lot of that puts a lot of pressure with that great intro. Appreciate it. But just one more student like all of us in this call. And yeah, I guess we met about 3 or 4 years ago. I remember in
Yes.
I think it was in Matagorda when we first met.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I appreciate the invite. I always, every once in a while as I join the group, I remember there are a lot more people in the group nowadays than, when it originally started. But, in terms of like, when you asked me to share a little bit of, my story, I'll just kind of I'll try to be brief on that, not to go into, a lot of detail.
You can say whatever you want to say. I just want to tell everybody how much I appreciate you and love you. When I first met you, I was just reading the text. I had just finished the workbook. I was going to Gary Renard's events, and we went to lunch together.
Yeah.
And you like mentored me. You helped me. You were like, hey, this is Ken Wapnick, Journey Through the Text. And it really changed everything for me, because you know how the text is hard.
Right.
Like reading Ken Wapnick, Journey Through the Text, along with the text, took my understanding through a whole new level. And then also just the ability to, somehow I hear some feedback. I'm going to mute you for a second. Just the ability to have you also as a friend and a mentor. Like I've multiple times over the last 3-4 years, I've messaged you questions. Like guys, if you have questions, Pablo's the best. And I hope you all have your questions ready. But thank you for all the time you've spent with me. Thank you for your mentorship, your friendship, and just want to acknowledge that you really have been a great mentor and friend to me. And take it away. We want to hear you.
Yeah, thanks for the words there, Jared. I greatly appreciate that. But now I guess we just, all of us here, some way or another, got lucky and got to Gary's materials and Ken's materials, and that's really what happened to me. Actually, it was towards the end. It was actually December of 2015. So it is, I'm a very new course student, from a linear time perspective. Because I was actually going, my whole awakening started with my ex-father-in-law, which he went into a coma out of the blue. He just got up. He was 70 years old, perfect health. He had just gotten his exams done and everything was perfect, good looking, tall. He got out of bed at 2 a.m. to go get water, and he fell on the floor and hit his head, went into a coma for 27 days and passed. So, well, I was going through my ex-wife through all that process of the coma. She was going crazy, just trying to find out what was going on. And she started asking a lot of questions that I didn't have answers for, because prior to that, I haven't really delved into spirituality at all. I was always the way I lived my life was kind of guided by what like a set of guidelines that I felt were reasonable, and I was disciplined and driven and whatever, but it was all the world, right? So that led me to start asking a lot of questions because I didn't have answers for her. And that led me to start watching some videos, and ultimately I got to a guy named Drumbelow Melchizedek, which some of you may have heard of. And so I went through all of that material from him, the ancient secrets of the flower life, and then got to the Awakening the Illuminated Heart, and did a workshop in Los Angeles for that. And then I was doing another workshop in Colombia in December with Paula, my ex. We were supposed to go together to that. She actually didn't end up going. And that's when I heard about A Course in Miracles. After I spent 2 days where I thought I was getting like the latest and greatest spiritual information. And right before the end of the course, he says, the person that was giving the class says, well, and if you're truly serious about your spirituality, nothing is ever mandatory, nothing. But if you're truly serious about your spirituality, these books are mandatory. And then he smiles. I'm like, what does that mean? And I said, okay, whatever. So I bought everything. I was actually in Colombia then because I was visiting. I was going to spend a Christmas holiday then, and I bought all those books. And in those books were the course and the 3 books from Gary that had come out at that time. DU, Your Mortal Reality, and Love Has Forgotten No One. And then there were the books from Ken. There was the Message of A Course in Miracles, Awaken from the Dream. I think there was one more. Anyway, I bought those, and that's how I got started. Actually, so I ordered all of that in Houston because I had to go back. I had to come back to here to Houston to pick up some stuff, and then I was going to go back to spend the holidays in Colombia. And I was reading another book on meditation. And before I left, I said, well, I'm going to grab whatever book. I'm going to grab another book in case I get bored of this one. And the one that caught my attention was The Disappearance of the Universe, because it had the word universe. And so I remember it was December 31st, 2015. I got bored. I eventually got bored of that other meditation book I was reading, and I opened DU December 31st, 2015, and I was just blown away right away. And I'm sure I'm speaking for all of you guys that have had the same experience. Once you open that book, it just hits you so hard, and that was the beginning of my whole my journey with the course. It was the truth behind the words in that book are just undeniable. And I'm sure our experiences may be different in form, but in content it's going to be the same. Just those sensations, those strong feelings that we get. So that's how I got started, and it was through Gary's book. So I finished those books. I started the workbook, and it was while rereading DU that I read about Journey Through the Workbook from Ken. And so I started doing the workbook with Ken at that time. And from there, I just followed, the Journey Through the Workbook, Journey Through the Manual. And then I did Journey Through the Text. And then I continued the pamphlets, he doesn't have a journey series for the pamphlets. He does have one for the, he has a little book for the preface. And for the pamphlets, he has an audio, I think, for the Song of Prayer is what I did, and another video for the psychotherapy pamphlet. So anyway, that's kind of a short story of how I got to the course. And as I was going through that process of rereading Gary's book, studying the course, and applying, which we all know that's the most important part of the whole thing. Otherwise, we just may understand intellectually the theory, but if we don't do anything with it, then it doesn't do anything to us. It's not like we make any type of progress. I was going with that. Then I didn't know Gary did workshops, and I saw he was going to do one in Dallas at the end of 2000, and I think it was 2016. November, I think it was. And so I went to see him then, and then I kind of started following up, and I started going to a lot of his workshops. I enjoyed it. After you've read his books, like us, it's really no longer a matter of, am I going to learn anything new? Because the content of the course is, like you guys meet every single week, or we meet in different groups or with different friends to talk about the course. And we always talk about the same thing, yet we like to talk about it. And it kind of reinforces our own process and our remembering. So, as I was going, and I actually continue to do it. I enjoy meeting people, hanging out with people that are committed to this journey, committed to the process with the course. And so, I've over the years, I've continued to go to the retreats in Hawaii or here in Texas, whenever I can. And whenever I feel, feel like going, like guided to go, like inspired when it feels good. So that's my short story on that end. And then, as I told you, Jared, I mean, you know me well, so I'm very informal. The kind of formality of, we're all learning on this. It's not an easy path. We understand the course in general. As we go along, we always understand it on deeper and deeper levels. And there are some days, that are really cool. There are some other days that, the world kicks your ass, and you have to, it's all about forgiveness ultimately. So, and forgiving and forgiving and forgiving and forgiving. So here we are. So yeah, we can do this in any way you guys want, whether we just bring up a subject and we talk about it, or specific questions, however you want to handle it.
Okay. Well, thank you for the background. It's interesting to know that we actually started the course around the same time. You said you found it in 2015, December?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going through the workbook lessons. It took me 2 years, but I 2015 and 2016, I was the first time through the workbook lessons. And that's interesting though. I know but you spend like 6 hours a day reading the course or something.
Yeah. So that's a good point. And I'll share that, because ultimately our journeys are all different. You know, our paths are different. And it's something where the only thing we can do, there's not a universal recipe as to this is the way to do this. And ultimately it goes back to trusting that intuition, that inspiration, trusting the inner guidance, the Holy Spirit's guidance as to what's best for you on any given instant. And so what happened to me after I read Gary's 3 books, which I pretty much swallowed them up, and I remember it was January, I finished them. And, you know, I just had immediately, I just felt it. I'm going to share a little bit more on. So this whole thing coincided. I was, so I studied mechanical engineering, and then I went to business school, and I had been in the oil and gas industry since I moved to Houston in 2005. And I quit in 2014, September 2014, because I had an initiative. I was actually starting another company to process gas with a business partner. We're trying to push a technology. And it so happened that technology started to get delayed. It was supposed to be tested by December. That didn't happen. And so they said, okay, so it's going to be April. And that didn't happen. And that April is when the whole thing started, when my ex-father-in-law went into a coma. And the whole thing pushed through July. And at that point, I knew that wasn't going to happen. And so I invested in real estate as well. So I said, I'm going to focus on the real estate. But I was already hooked in my awakening through Drunvalo. So my whole focus was on just like learning everything that I was getting in touch with all this new information that was blowing me away. And it was blowing me away. It was new, but it wasn't scary. And it was just an extreme attraction that I had towards that. And anyway, so at that time, I wasn't going to an 8 to 5 job. I didn't have a job. So whenever I ran into the course and I read Gary's books, the only thing I knew, I was still active in the real estate investment. We were very busy on that, but I could manage my time any way I wanted. And I had an inner, it was an inner call, and call it whatever. I just felt, I knew that what I was supposed to do at that point was just to focus and go in really, really deep about studying and understanding the teachings of the course. So I literally, and I kid you not, because I mean, I'm sharing this, and it is what it is, and nobody has to believe it, or I don't need to convince anyone. But I did spend, if I average out those 3, how many hours I read every day for at least the first 3 years, it was at least 8 hours every day. So it was a lot. It's a lot. I had 10, 12 hours. And I didn't feel it. It wasn't an effort for me. It's not like I've actually experienced during these past, I would say 6 months, I've experienced more resistance in the past 6 months that I experienced during my whole beginning of the course. And it's, it has to do also because I've been a lot busier with the external world, which is really what we want to do. We want to be, we want to use the mirrors of the seemingly external world so that we can get in touch with all that ego content and continuously correct our perception to let all of that go. But my point is that I did not experience, it wasn't an effort for me to take the time and read. It was just simply what I had to do. So that was my path. So that's the time I spent. And how I used it is I never switched. It was, I reread Gary's books. As soon as I finished, I continued with Ken and the course, and I would start rereading the books in order again. And that's what I've done. And every time I got it deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think, as I always say, to me, the books are it's like a walker. I mean, it's a symbol, it's not about making them real, but ultimately they're illusory, but they're a very helpful symbol that helps us keep this thought system clear and fresh in our minds every day. And it's just in the way I connect with the style of art and impersa, because they're very blunt, very direct. And that's something that happens to be the same type of ego personality that that I have. And so that speaks to me very much when they slap you in the face and they say, just don't forget what everything is for. This is all you should care about. Yeah, be normal, do your thing, do whatever. You don't need to deny anything at the level of form, but do your thing, forgive. And so that's been extremely helpful to me to continue to use Gary's books and Ken's books and videos and everything. They got multiple formats. So that, yeah, so I kind of extended a little bit on that, but yeah.
Absolutely. I love what you have to say. And that's what impressed me the most. I mean, spending 8 hours a day, like 7 days a week? Like, were you doing it every day? Like,
yeah, no, it was
we're
pretty
talking
crazy. But like I said, it wasn't, and then I wasn't trying. It's crazy, but we've all at some level and in different ways, everyone in this call has felt that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe for shorter times or whatever, where you just know that's what you got to do. And there's no effort into it. You're just so into the whole process.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Well, no. And I do want to say to everybody listening that you don't have to read the course 8 hours a day to get
not
it.
At all.
That was just Pablo's path, but that's
exactly.
Also why you learned it so fast, or you you spent the time, going through it all. And that's also encouraging too. If you are spending hours, don't feel guilty about that either. The ego wants to make you feel guilty either way. But yeah,
I think from that though, an important takeaway though is not about, you're not supposed to do anything, period. I mean, there's no recipe in form. It really doesn't matter. It's ultimately kind of staying really connected with the Holy Spirit, with that higher self. So that whatever we end up doing, it's really inspired. And then regardless of what it is, regardless if 5 minutes reading or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And that's probably the best way to be in harmony as we learn the content, in our own way and at the own time that we have. So thank you for sharing that. I know that was also, again, something that I want people to know, and what you've done and what you continue to do to give back to people with now the knowledge that you have. So let's go ahead and open up for questions. So if you have a question for Pablo, anything about the course or anything, in your personal life or what's going on, he's going to help you see it differently or answer whatever questions that you have. I'm going to start. Pablo, my question for you is I want to know your response about me making the Course in Miracles an idol, because I am trying to keep up with my own group. Okay. We got 30 minutes at a time we read, and then I get behind, and then now I have this ego thing about it. It's I've got to get this 10 minutes in today. And I'm reading the book, and it's there's stress behind me reading the course because I'm trying to keep up with my own group. And so now I'm really happy when I do it. And then I'm pissed off or sad when I don't do it. And it's so this is my thing, right? So I got to figure out a way to relate. I don't want to cancel the group. I don't want to slow the group down, but I also want to be peaceful and just read like I did before the group, So what would you have to say about that?
Man, I would say, remember that ultimately your group or no group, it's your dream. So it's kind of become a little more flexible as to what you obviously know that if you're feeling guilty or stressed with not doing something, that's what we have to forgive, right? So that's the first thing. That's really, this whole group is bringing that opportunity for you, because if you experience that every single week or every single day or every single time that you actually experience, you forgive it, you're making a tremendous amount of progress, right? So it just so happens that this is giving you that opportunity to do it. From a more general, having said that and knowing that that's truly what it is for, from a practical perspective, in the way you can perceive it, is ultimately this is your dream, and it's a group within your dream that is symbolic of your commitment to awaken from the dream. So if it is a dream and a dream isn't real, then why does it matter if you show up on a Friday or you don't show up? And it's what group? My group? Whose group?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's becoming a little more flexible from that perspective, that it really, it doesn't matter if you don't show up. I think the the commitment, when you say, I got to put the 10 minutes in, that could be a right-minded thought from the perspective of, you don't want to, like, you've been so with your attention so out there in the world doing your, your work and doing your everyday job and talking to everyone, where our attention's so out there, that I think having that commitment of trying to put the 10 minutes in every day is very helpful, because it focuses you to read at least one paragraph that kind of keeps that thought system alive, and it reconnects you to that right-minded part of you that remembers who you truly are. And if you do that before you go to bed, or when you wake up and before you go to bed, then it kind of keeps you connected to that right mind. But the main thing is, if you don't do it one day, or if you cannot do it one day, or if you don't feel like doing it, I don't remember which book it is, but I think it's Gary, like, he says, oh no, I felt like taking a break. Or they tell him like, oh, get a grip, Gary. He's like, no, I'm taking a break. It's like, he's so tired of forgiving. But the main thing is that if you do that, if you do take a break, or if you do change something, just don't feel guilty about it. And if you do, forgive it.
Okay.
So I think it's the keeping kind of the commitment on the forgiveness side, just continue forgiving, because that's what's giving you the opportunity. But from a more practical perspective, it's kind of, remember that it's your dream. So whether you go to the group or not go to the group, or cancel the group 1 month or regather, who cares? It's your dream.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Pablo. Great stuff. So I forgot to tell everybody that we're going to, in order to keep some type of order on the call, it's going to be like 1 minute for your question, 2 minutes for Pablo's answer. But again, it doesn't have to be like on the minute. So, if it goes off, finish your thought. I just got to do that to keep the order of the call. So we're going to go to Eli Davey. You can unmute yourself. Eli, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Winnipeg, Manitoba, here in Canada.
Yay. Take it away.
Yay. Okay, so Pablo, I love what you just said to Jared. So that, just hearing that really helped. But my thing was, I talked to Gary about how much, like, I do the course, I read it, and I do the lessons in the workbook. And sometimes I'm on a lesson that I just want to keep doing and doing and doing and doing. I don't want to turn the page. And he suggested that I only, maybe five days max, so that the ego doesn't decide to say, well, see that, you're not getting it. So that made sense to me, and that's all good. But now that I'm just, say, doing one a day, I'm in the every hour do for 5 minutes. Is there any kind of, should I be concerned at all, which I don't feel like I am, but I'm just going to ask a question. When it says to do for 5 minutes every hour, well, maybe I want to do for 15 minutes every hour, and maybe I want to sit for a half an hour with this meditation, because they're fabulous and I feel like I get a lot out of them. So is there such a thing as overdoing the workbook lessons?
I think what's most important from following the instructions is actually that we're letting go of control, and that's a major part. Because see, when we try to change it up, we actually think that we know better. And so, part of that structure, I think, it's an implicit part that it doesn't mention that, but it's kind of that surrendering. It's like, here's a course that I'm connecting with, that clearly I'm connecting, with it at a very deep level, because you're putting in the time to do it, and you're here on a Friday. And I resonate with what it's telling me, and if you connect, if Jesus is a very strong symbol for a lot of people, and if he is a very strong symbol for you, then here's Jesus talking to you, giving you instructions, yet a part of you thinks that it may know better than what he's telling you. So I think that's an important part. It's ultimately the form. It doesn't really matter whether if you were to spend a few more minutes or not, because ultimately what the workbook is really trying to do, in addition to several other things, is to try to get us to train ourselves to become mindful all the time. Well, to stay right-minded, remembering, keeping that that purely non-dualistic thought system the course is giving us, keep it in our awareness all the time, fresh, so that we're ready to correct our perception, our thinking and perception, whenever we're thinking or perceiving with the ego. But in addition to that, I think the part that is trying to get us is to truly to surrender and to just just to let ourselves be guided, not to intersect to interrupt and say I know what to do. So I think from it's not the form, it's really the content where you come from. So I think that letting go is very helpful, and just kind of humbly say, I don't know anything. Why would I know if it's that 15 minutes is going to be better than 5? I think that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Right on time too. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Eli. All right, let's go to Terry Wade. Where are you calling in from, Terry?
Hello, Jared, and everybody. I'm calling in from San Francisco, California.
Welcome.
All right. So the question I had is, because of this whole, all the Black Lives Matter. So I've been asked to speak. So I do like business and life coaching, and so I've been asked to speak to different audiences about like Black Lives Matter. And I'm all about non-dualistic. We are one in spirit, and there's no differences. There's no separation. So when people were asking me to speak, I was really like conflicted, because I'm like, I don't want to, like emphasize like I'm Black, you're white, we're separate. And so it was just like, I don't know, it was like, I'm just thinking of the challenges that kind of have arose lately. And that was like one of them for me, because it like brought up a lot of like unrest, because I was like, I don't want to talk about the separateness of the bodies and the colors. And, so I'm just kind of curious on what your thoughts are and opinions are on like, so what I ended up talking and saying, I guess it's good to, I've been in the course like for a little over a year, so I love it. Sorry if I'm rambling, but so I wanted to like, I guess, bring to awareness that there are shadows that we could bring to the light. But I'm just kind of curious on how your thoughts are around this whole thing.
First of all, you have an awesome smile. So yeah, I really like it. But in a situation like that where you're asked to speak, and I know exactly what you're saying, and I think from a very practical perspective as to like, from your experience, the best thing you could actually do was simply ask for help and let go. Because even if you try to control your words and try to communicate a really cool message, we don't do anything, because we're trying to control. This is the whole thing. If we go to the ontological instant, and which we try to control things, and when we took that tiny mad idea and took it seriously, that's what we try to do, was control the thing, take control and give ourselves a seeming individual existence. And that's the same thing we try to do every time we try to control something. And, and as we progress with the course, especially in the beginning, when we're starting to just turn our perception right side up, there's still a lot of things that are unclear. Yeah, you resonate with a part of unity, of oneness, right? And you connect with that. So I think from a practical perspective, I would say whenever you're confronted with a speech or anything related to, is just ask for help and let go. And don't really pay it, because remember this basic premise that we can never get away from. This is our dream. We, meaning everyone that thinks that is sitting here on this call, is really the one and only mind that is having this dream. There's not such a thing as multiple minds. That's an illusion. We're just, we're trapped. It's like we did some mushrooms or some really hard drug, and we're hallucinating, we're tripping. And now we think there's just these bunch of people around us. That's false. It's an illusion. It's a hallucination. So it is your dream. So if you don't get away from that, it's your dream. Who are you going to talk to when you speak? To yourself. Who am I speaking to right now? To myself. So that kind of takes the pressure off, and then just ask for guidance as to what you say. And you may just get out there and just don't say a freaking thing, but because you ask for help, it is going to be, whatever it is that you say, it's going to come from a loving space. And that's the only thing that matters. Even if you just say, guys, I was asked to talk, and I really have no idea what to say other than saying that we are one. Even if you just said that or whatever, or something that didn't even make any sense because it came from a loving space, that's the only thing that's going to matter, and that's what people are going to connect to. So I wouldn't get into the details as to how to approach this. I think of any message of unity that is genuine, that is coming truly from the heart, it's going to be helpful. And most importantly, who is it going to be helpful to? You, because there's nobody else out there. So you're going to remain in peace, and you're going to feel that love. And that's truly what's important.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Lots of snaps for Pablo and Terry. I remember when you told me, imagine that you hallucinated and you saw these Smurfs and you thought you were this Smurf, and like,
Hey, that's an
what we think
example I
we
use
are
a
when.
lot, man. Because yeah, yeah, I hear you. I used it in Spanish recently on a call I did, and I remember a friend of mine was cracking up. She hadn't heard it.
So can you repeat it? Like, what did you tell me? Imagine I was a Smurf.
Well, what I said was, just because it kind of makes a difference. I said, just imagine you took a really hard drug, and then you just started hallucinating a bunch of Smurfs around you, and you actually experienced yourself within that hallucination as a Smurf. And now you're talking to like 10 different Smurfs, and you don't realize you completely forgot that you just did some drugs and you're trapped in your own mind trip. But here you are talking to all these Smurfs and saying, hey man, how are we going to awaken from this? And how are we going to wake up from this whole thing? And what should we do? And, and actually the way you get out of that hallucination in this case, in our case, which is exactly what we're experiencing, is through that, well, one of the, say, the most efficient tool right now, as of now, because there may be another one later, and very direct one, is forgiveness. That's how how you cleanse your unconscious mind and you remember who you are. So imagine you as a Smurf talking to these other Smurfs that you take to be very real. You jump to be very real. You're very concerned about them and when they're going to awaken, and you try to help them out because they got a bunch of problems. What Smurfs? You're not even a Smurf. You're just tripping. So that's the example. Like it's handy. But
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it.
We think we're actually the Smurfs you're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly. It's a dream figure. But
yeah.
that's it. And this is the very important part, because it's kind of that split between content and form. Yes. At the level of the mind, we always remember that there's really nobody there. And these bodies, these Smurfs, they're avatars of a dream that does not exist. And as long as we keep that in our awareness very clearly, we still, we start, as we train ourselves, we start getting that split where, even though we know that at the level of the mind and we're constantly focused on correcting our perception, we're able to operate normally in the dream. You don't go to a dinner and then not talk because it's all illusory, or you're not going to do this or deny that. No. And that integration is one of the toughest parts of the course, but we don't have to do it too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Do it as we go.
Thank you for elaborating. Love that. All right, let's go to Alejandra Vallejo. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Perugia, Colombia.
Bienvenidos.
Gracias. I'm going to try to do this question in English, and if I can't, Pablo, you help me.
Okay.
Okay. I have like this idea that is very strong that if I let go fear, I'm gonna die. It's like I need fear. That I am very fearful, and it's like, with this coronavirus thing, I have got then, okay, more like very attracted to that, because I am all the time like washing my hands and using the mask and scared of dying or of making my family sick. So, and something tells me like, if I am not fearful, I'm gonna lose everything. That's like my.
So if I were to rephrase your question, the main thing is that you feel that if you're not concerned, if there wasn't any fear in you, you couldn't survive, is essentially kind of where you were coming from. But there's a part of you that tells you that if you don't experience fear, you couldn't survive in this world with all these viruses and all these, things that can affect us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, there's what I would say to that is, one, and I know you know this, one is simply every time you experience fear, just to make that pause, take that deep breath, ask for help to perceive that situation truly, because all we're really doing is we're kind of projecting the fear is getting projected. We're projecting the cause of the fear onto a bunch of different things, continuously, right? So one thing is the virus, the other thing is the economy, the other thing is my financial my personal financial situation. The other thing is my health. But in reality, is really the same cause. And we know that the fear is really a double layer thing. The most superficial is the fear of God's punishment coming from our unconscious belief in being sinful and guilty, or I'm separated from who we are, which is impossible. And that's kind of one level. And then the other cause is really the ontological cause of our fear, which is the fear of love, the fear of oneness. Because the minute that we took the time out idea seriously and we appear to exist as an individual, we were scared right away that if we withdrew our belief from that, we would disappear. So, and I know you know this, but what I would say is because we're projecting the cause of our fear instead of realizing that the cause of the fear is what I just mentioned, which we all know, we attribute it to a virus or to our health or to anything of the world. What we have to be doing every time that we experience fear with anything in the world is making that pause, taking a deep breath and asking for help to perceive that situation truly. Because truly, that's really our classroom, right? That's what's really giving us the opportunity to get rid of all of that dirt, all of those false unconscious ego beliefs that are there, the belief in sin, the belief in guilt, the belief that I actually exist as a seeming individual. So that's one thing. And in a situation like this, where it seems like the world is attacking us from, you know, every single angle possible, it can be very demanding. But yeah, that's our job. So what can we do it to the best of our ability? You know, all we can do is put a good effort, try to forgive everything, and do that. Then the second component that's the most important part, but it doesn't actually, is just equally important as what I'm about to say, because what I'm about to say is trust. And also so trust in what? Trust, it's really the trust in the Holy Spirit, where, again, when we say that we need to have some kind of fear in order to survive in the world, we're saying that we are the ones that need to make decisions, that we are the ones that need to be scared so that we can calculate, we can control, we can come up with the solutions to the things that we perceive are going to hurt us. So again, we're not letting go of control. We're not really asking the Holy Spirit to guide us every instant and trust that guidance is going to be it's the best thing for us at that given instant. So while you forgive, it's trying to be disciplined more and more at asking for guidance and kind of letting go and trusting. The way I approach guidance is more in line with Ken, where I don't ask for specific guidance. Like, I don't focus on specific things. I'm very broad, and I just simply say, Holy Spirit, you're in charge. You know, you're in full charge of everything. And I do it in the morning or whenever I'm confronted with a seeming decision. That's what I say. You know, I may look at different scenarios and I catch myself projecting, I correct my perception, but ultimately I say, Holy Spirit, you take care of that. And then I let go. And I trust. And that's the thing we got to do. And I know it's tough because that the fear keeps coming up. You know, we keep confronting that fear if this happens, if that happens. So it's a simultaneous thing we got to do. Forgive, and then ask for guidance and trust the guidance. And, you know, from a very, very, very practical perspective, if you remember the metaphysical context of this, one of the metaphysical premises that the script is written, and yes, it's a multiple dimensional script. So there are different timelines, you know, so Alejandra doesn't die just at one single point in time. You know, it depends really on the sequence of events. Alejandra may die at this age or at that age and this place, whatever. It could be multiple, but regardless of what it is, she's going to die at the scheduled time. You know, the body's going to die at the scheduled time per the script. So if you kind of keep that in mind too, it's like, well, you know, what do I gain by worrying? You know, from a very practical perspective. So you got kind of the forgiveness part, the asking for guidance and trusting. And from a very, very practical perspective, is like, well, what can I do? I mean, how am I going to control, you know, the script is already written and body's going to die when it's going to die, and might as well just enjoy while I can appear to be living. So that's kind of what I would add to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good. That's a great way to think about it, man. Like, you know, these bodies all watching this, that appear to be watching this, have their certain time they're going to pass, and that's it. Yeah. And yeah, this is great stuff on surrender, you know, putting the Holy Spirit in charge. That's the happy dream for sure. Thank you, Alejandra. Great question. All right, so before we go to Cristina Salinas, I have a little commercial announcement here. Gary Renard, San Antonio, has been rescheduled to Saturday, March 20th, 2021. So all of you can now come in 2021, and you don't have to worry about Corona and none of that because it'll all be over, hopefully. And that's what's happened. And bonus, Cindy Renard is going to be with us. So now not only do you get Gary, you get Cindy on March 20th, 2021. Saturday, March 20th, 2021. We're going to have a new link. And if you can't make it, then we'll give you your money back if you already bought a ticket. But I think most of you are going to be able to make it that couldn't make it to this one that was supposed to be in September, I guess. But now that's over. It's March 20th, 2021. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Cristina Salinas. Where are you calling in from, Cristina?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm
We
calling
can't
from
see
Mexico.
you. We can't see you. Hold on.
Yeah, I know because
Okay.
I'm not ready.
No problem. You can stay there as just audio only. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you guys. First of all, well, I want to say that I'm really excited about Pablo speaking Spanish because, you know, I like to see that Latin Americans can relate and identify with the course. And well, I really enjoy this group, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, and hopefully there's a group that can have Pablo speak in Spanish and y'all can talk in your native language so that it's even better.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great. Even though I really enjoy English, but I feel a little bit ashamed because I don't practice it a lot. So that's why.
That's just the ego. That's just the ego making you feel ashamed.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's why I tell myself, come on, you can do it. You can do it.
Yes, good job.
Yeah. Okay,
well, take it away.
All right. So I wanted to say that I am living in a situation that really hard for me because I am seeing my whole day through the ego, and then suddenly I change my mind and I can see it through the Holy Spirit, and then I change again, and then I change again, and I change again, and I am like ego, Holy Spirit, ego, the whole day, and so it makes me really, really tired. So at the end of the day, I'm like, I feel a little bit like confused. And what can you recommend me?
Persistence, because you just described all of our experience. It is very different. Yeah, no, that seriously, that I think what you're expressing is really what we all go through. It, you know, it may not, the intensity may vary, but it's, you know, especially when we first start with the course, we're just starting to break those the ego thought patterns, because we've been so used to thinking in one way. You know, the lens through which we perceived everyone and everything was always that. It's like a programming in a computer. The only language that we spoke before was specialness, lack, separation, sin, guilt, and fear. That's the only language we knew. And so the lens through which every thought and every perception we had always had that underlying content. And so when we start with the course, which, you know, you clearly are doing, are practicing, is we start interrupting those thought patterns, that the patterns of perception and thought. And it's inevitable to experience that because we break it, and, you know, we correct our perception, and then, because it is an unconscious process, that what is in the unconscious mind, it's always going to come up to the surface. Actually, that's the value of the world, you know, the value of the relationships and everything. Let's say our daily routines act as an effective mirror, you know, and true, every person, everything, and every situation, it's really a mirror that allows us to get in touch with the content, the ego content of the unconscious mind. That's why we're able to let it go through forgiveness. So I think, what you describe, I think everybody in a way has experienced something similar. And really what's going to get us across is persistence, discipline. And in order to have persistence and discipline, we have to be really motivated to attain peace and to awaken. Now, from a very practical perspective, one thing that has always helped me tremendously, especially when you get to the end of the day and you kind of feel exhausted, and actually the problem is not so much the exhaustion, the exhaustion that you feel, it's the guilt that you feel because you didn't feel
Yes.
like you were in peace and you were not so good at practicing forgiveness. And I always, whenever I feel that, I always go back to that quote, which I'm going to butcher it completely because I don't remember it, but it says that we don't recognize our gains from our retreats or something like that. Like we think we know when we're doing good and when we're doing bad. We have no clue. So last thing we got to do is judge how we're actually doing. And the best thing we can do when you feel that guilt at the end of the day because you don't think that you did so good is simply to forgive it. Remember, it's a dream. Linear time is an illusion. You are the mind that is dreaming this. And as that one mind, you're always active. All you're seeing is like a slideshow of 3D images. So there's no linear time. It's literally, just imagine like a PowerPoint slideshow of 3D images. That's all you're viewing. And so there's really no like, oh, I messed up yesterday. You're still seeing a bunch of images. All you got to do is correct your perception now and start doing a better job now, and not judge you for, not judge you because you think that you didn't do so well. So I think the tiredness, that's the most important part of that is not to judge ourselves. When we don't think that we're doing good, because we really don't know. We don't have a clue as to when we do good or not do good. It's simply, that's where, and we've all heard it because we've all studied Ken and Gary, and they've all repeated all the time, is a good student of A Course in Miracles is a bad student of A Course in Miracles that forgives himself. And literally, if we just practice forgiveness, every time we felt like we were being bad students, just with forgiving that, we would be able to awaken from the dream. I mean, just how many times we project guilt on ourselves for that, we would make tremendous progress to that final awakening. So just to be very concise with the answer is persistence and discipline. And for that, you need to be very motivated. And one of the things that Gary's books have always done for me is they've kept the motivation level of my end at an ultimate high, because it's a reminder. It's always reminding you what your function is, what your ultimate purpose is, which is to attain peace and awaken from the dream. And so that helps you with your motivation, and that motivation will get you through, will give you the willpower, discipline, and persistence that you need to practice every day. And then if you add the forgiveness part at the end of the day, whenever you feel bad, remember that you're dreaming. There's nobody out there. It's your dream, and there's no linear time. So it's okay. Regardless, just don't think, just forgive that guilt. Recognize that that's all you're seeing is that unconscious sense of guilt from believing you're separated from God. Remember, that's false. Let it go. And remember that you're perfect spirit. And do that over and over and over and over, and it'll get lighter.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. But just to hear you and just to share it with the group, it really helps. And so, thank you very much.
Great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, our next special guest is Carolina Ramirez. Where are you calling in from, Carolina?
Hello, everybody. I am calling from Bogota, Colombia. And my question for, my item is about guilt too, like Christina. And some weeks ago, I told all the group that I feel that sometimes I'm not really lovely with me and can be really hard, and I working about this. But I working about 3 or 4 weeks about this, but the last week I have an extreme situation. I trying all the time be really lovely with me, and suddenly I have a situation with a partner, and my partner start to write me and tell me you are a bad person, you are a da, da, da. And I was thinking, okay, probably it's my I can feel all these things about me, and I can say this. But what do you think about, Pablo? What what you tell me what I can do in this situation?
But about the situation, about how you're feeling with yourself, or how you're feeling with the person that's texting you a bunch
No,
of stuff.
about the guilty.
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, there's only one recipe that I know, and that is the same one we use for everything, which is forgiveness. But what I would say is I would be very focused on doing a complete forgiveness process with that. And what I mean by that, I mean, if we remember, forgiveness really is the process of seeing through the illusory nature of the ego thought system and the world of time and space, which is simply a symbolic representation of that thought system. So it's recognizing that illusory nature and remembering and letting go all of our belief in the ego thought system and the world, and remembering who we are in truth, which is perfect oneness. So I say that because when the mind is clinging to the projection of guilt onto the body, onto your body, or onto someone else's body, or onto you as a dreaming mind, because you're not doing the course so good, or because you're not forgiving, whatever. It is very important to go back to the basic metaphysical premises, because that's ultimately what that is why forgiveness works. It is the fact that you are not Carolina. You are the dreamer of the dream. You are that one single mind. There's only one mind that is having this hallucination, and that is you. Everything that you're appearing to see, including the body of Carolina, it's images of your dream. Their dream figure. It's a hallucinatory image that does not exist. Your distress, and this, any distress that you may experience on any given instant, it doesn't come from any of the images, any of the scenarios. It doesn't come from the world. The world is a mirror. The distress always comes from getting in touch with the thoughts that you think about, that you think to be true about yourself at an unconscious level. And that's that perception of being sinful and guilty and being lacking because you separated from God, which is who you truly are. So whenever you're experiencing that intensity of the guilt, just take a deep breath, ask the Holy Spirit or Jesus, whatever symbol is the one that you use, to help you to perceive the situation truly, and immediately just try to remember those basic, very extremely important premises, that you are the dreamer of the dream. You're not Carolina. You do a split right away between the body and who you are within the illusory level of perception. Then remind yourself of that time that everything you're seeing, Carolina and everybody else, and all the things you're seeing and the phone and the text are images of your own dream. That your distress is coming from getting in touch with that thought of guilt that you're perceiving in Carolina in this instant. And that all of those thoughts and the world that you appear to see are completely illusory. They do not exist, because you can never separate from what you are. You can never not be who you are, which is perfect oneness. You can never cease to be perfect spirit. You can never cease to be God. And it's not like God as an individual God. God is the definition. God is that infinite mind, that infinite self, which has no beginning and no end, whose natural state of being is one of perfect oneness. That's a reality that we know that can only be experienced. We're trying to put words to describe the indescribable, but remember that at the end. So recognize the illusory nature of the world, of the thoughts that you're perceiving, in this case in the body of Carolina, which is illusory. Both the thought and the world are illusory, because you can never separate from God. It's impossible. You're simply dreaming, and dreams are not real. And when you kind of recognize that and you get in touch, because it's not about the words don't do anything. The words are a tool to get in touch with the experience of feeling like the dreamer of the dream of that instant. Once you get in touch with that, as you say that mentally to yourself, and try to when you experience this, try to find a quiet space for you where you can go into a little bit of a meditative state, and you can go in and do this forgiveness process thoroughly. Then once you connect with those words and recognize the illusory nature of the world and the thought of guilt, and let it go, and remember, because you can never separate from God, remind yourself at the end very clearly that what you truly are is perfect spirit. That what that book, that person that was texting you, Carolina, what they truly are is perfect oneness, perfect spirit, perfect love. But say it to yourself mentally. And I'm going to share something that works for me. And we all have different things, but to me, one thing that is helpful for me is to visualize when I get to that final point. When I say, Pablo's perfect spirit, I, as a wandering mind, is perfect spirit, perfect oneness, perfect love. I visualize that white light that permeates every single image that I appear to be seeing at that instant. And everything fades away in that light. And I just stayed in that state of oneness for a few seconds and just stay there. And do that process 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, a million times. However many times you experience guilt, you continue to correct your perception over and over, over and over, over and over. Eventually, you'll be able to get rid of that unconscious guilt that was projected on that specific pattern, which is kind of projection on your own body. You will all reach that point. Don't worry about when that will be. Just focus on doing the work now and continue to do it, and just let the results come.
Okay, gracias, Pablo.
So good. Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Carolina. Our last question goes to Andrew Vag. I know where you're calling in from, but tell everybody else, where are you calling in from?
Oh, sorry. Hey guys, I'm calling in from Melbourne, Australia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Way.
It's good to be here. Thanks, Jared, for hosting the group. It's always great. Hi, Pablo. I have a question for you. So I wrote it down because it was hard for me to remember. So I'll read out the question and then I'll break it down to a really simple way of putting it. So our Smurf self seemingly has its own individual consciousness within the dream. How can the one consciousness, God, split its consciousness into multiple different consciousnesses? So, for example, when I dream, I can only inhabit one dream character at a time. How can we seemingly have different conscious awareness when we are all one? So basically what I want to know is what is dreaming up this dream and why? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Whatever I say, intellectually, the answer for that, regardless of the way that it comes, is very difficult to accept from an intellectual perspective. And it's only as we advance with the practice that the question kind of falls off. Like, it gets answered more experientially, but it's, but we have the question, so we have to ask it. And so one clarification is, and the course does a very good job about splitting God, which is that infinite self, whose natural state of being is perfect oneness, period. It can never not be perfect oneness. God is perfect oneness, perfect spirit. That's all that is. It's an infinite mind, and its natural state of being is perfect love, perfect oneness, perfect spirit. Those are synonym words to describe that orgasmic, eternal or orgasmic experience, which is abstract. Now, what appears to happen in the beginning when we and this is the whole kind of mythological story, is that as we're in that ecstasy, is as if an idea just kind of filtered through, and instead of like seeing it pass by, we gave it attention. And what happened was the awareness of that mind seemingly fragmented and entered into a state of sleep. So God's still God. That's who you truly are. It's as if by giving importance to that impossible idea, because God can only be God, you simply started dreaming. A part of you started dreaming a different experience, but it's a dream. And so a dream does not exist. So God is and nothing else is. And I say that because that's a very clear distinction. That's a pure non-dualistic nature of A Course in Miracles, and when it tells you about who we are and who we're not. So we are that infinite mind that's in a state of perfect oneness now. We just simply appear to have gone into a magical spell. We're under a magical spell where we appear to be experiencing as we could never be. And it's a temporary experience that whenever we let go of the cause of the dreaming is our unconscious belief in the tiny mind idea of specialness and separation, and the larger ego thought system of sin, guilt, and fear. That's the only cause of the dreaming. Whenever we quit, whenever we relinquish all our unconscious belief in the ego thought system, the dream vanishes from our awareness as if it had never existed. There'll be no memory of anything. We just go back to that orgasmic state, in which we've always been. Our awareness was simply trapped seemingly somewhere else, but it's a dream. Now, as to what you were saying so now if you take the one dreaming mind, which is really our identity within the illusory level of perception, that illusory level of consciousness, which is that level that appears to exist apart from God, which we know it can't exist. It simply appears to exist within a delusional state of awareness. We're hallucinating. We're tripping, and we appear to be having this experience. So I'm going to give you kind of as an analogy. Think of a person that has a multiple personality disorder, like a person that has had hard trauma when they were kids, and whatever it could have been, abuse or something, just a really bad trauma when they were little. And those thoughts are so heavy, they're so charged that they cannot tolerate them. They start repressing those. A lot of the times what happens is that leads the person to kind of fracture their consciousness. And so they develop like 20, like the movie Split, right? There's a person, and it's a single person, yet they appear to have 20 different personalities. And those personalities they don't know each other. Or sometimes they do, but they're clear blackouts between one and the other. There are veils of forgetfulness. So they all experience themselves as a different person. And they really all think that they exist separately. And they talk about each other as they were separate. Oh, Sarah did this. So I'm talking to you as Pablo, 40 years old, and we're having this conversation. All of a sudden I go through a little blackout, and then a 10-year-old girl named Sarah starts talking to you. I change my accent. I change everything. My expertise, my talents are different, everything. You're still seeing the same face, yet you're talking to a different person. Each one of them thinks that they exist separate from the others. I mean, they swear that they exist. Whenever one of those 20 personalities decide to start going to therapy and start going through some healing therapy, just one of them, and they start going and they start doing whatever the therapist gives them to teach, if they manage to heal, when they heal, all those 20 personalities disappear because they all integrated into the one and only person that was always there. So where are those 20 personalities left? They really never existed. They only appear to exist within a delusional state of mind. That's the same thing we're experiencing here. We think you're there. You think I'm here. That's false. That's why talking about this as a hallucination, as a dream, is very helpful, because it's all a mind trick. It's an illusion. And when you wake up from the illusion, because you go back to that oneness, you won't remember a thing. So they won't be like, oh, I wonder if my mom if she awakened from the dream. What mom? And so that's why the Course tries to lead us to we get these answers and we progress and we try to solve them, because ultimately it's the ego that's asking the questions. It's that ego minded part of us that is asking the questions. And in the question, it's really implicit the belief that we think this is real and separation is real. But as we progress, and then when we manage to wake up, we realize that there was never really here. But it's a gradual process. So we ask the questions, we do the process, we dig. And as we practice forgiveness over and over, a lot of the questions start falling off. And then as we start getting in closer touch to the experience of who we are, that's when really all the questions fall off. Because then we just know. We start going from an intellectual understanding to an experiential, to an experience. We start getting closer to that to knowing, until we attain enlightenment. And after the body's laid aside for that one final time, meaning when this dream lifetime that you're reviewing right now, if you attain enlightenment, finishes, the whole level of perception just vanishes from your awareness, and you're back to that orgasmic state with no memory of ever having anything but that orgasmic state. So,
Yeah, thanks for the
yeah. So it's a hard one, man. That you could talk about that for a long time, but it, hopefully, it maybe, it helped you a little bit to kind of loosen up the grab on that.
I think what it's done is you were talking about control earlier and how we would like to hold on to control. And I think there's an element of trust to this path that you have to really sort of believe and trust that to lead yourself to an experience where you'll actually feel more truth. And that's when you said that the questions will more drop away. So I think that for me, all I can really do is just really trust and keep practicing, and then
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, when you were saying that, you reminded me of that quote, and I don't have the full thing, but it says miracles are first taken on faith. Because we don't know a thing. When we start studying the course, we just connect with the content, but we don't have a freaking clue about what we're doing. We don't understand what forgiveness is. We don't really know what spirit is or not is, what the world is, who we are. We have no idea about any of that. All we know is that we get a sense that what that's saying is true, and they're teaching me a way to forgive. And you know what? I'm going to do it. So I do it completely out of faith. And as we progress, all of those things start falling into place, and our comprehension start going deeper. And all of the comprehension, the only benefit of comprehending things is that it actually motivates us and allows us to apply the teachings more effectively. Understanding, comprehending things, it doesn't add any value whatsoever other than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Pablo.
You're welcome.
Great question, Andrew. All right. Can you believe an hour has passed? It just seems like it flies by when we're having fun. And Pablo, how can people find you on social media? What's your tag or your handle? Go ahead.
Man, I don't post much, but if anybody wanted to get in touch with me, always through there is fine. It's in Instagram is Pablo Acim. So Pablo, PabloAcim, and the same thing in Facebook. And that's the page. It's the easiest way to find me. And then you can add me on my personal Facebook too. But it's PabloAcim. And then I also have a website, which I don't post, but it's just as a reference, like when I'm going to do a talk or whatever, and people don't know Pablo, then they can go to that website, and it's my name, last name, so PabloArango, Pablo Arango.org, and the org is because the .com was taken, so I had to take but there's Instagram and Facebook and the website.
So Pablo ACIM is Instagram, and Pablo ACIM is also Facebook.
Yeah.
And then PabloArango.org. And then just the person Pablo Arango on Facebook is also, people can send you a friend request.
Yeah, I don't know. It may be more difficult to find me, but they can. If they go to you, or there are several. I think Angela, like we're friends with a lot of people here. So if you just go and find in your friends, they can add me there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Pablo's the man. If y'all have questions, I mean, that's why I call him the Colombian Ken Wapnick, because as you see, like what he's answered, I know I give you compliments and you whatever, but you do, man, you have it. And thank you for taking the time to teach it and really share.
Hey, man, and I appreciate your words, and ultimately from what we've taken, I genuinely I say this because it's all about having that discipline to apply it. And the only reason why I like talking about it is the only reason why I talk about it, and I like doing a talk here or there or sharing with you, like as a group or whatever, whenever things like this happens, because I enjoy it. It's not like, I mean, clearly if we are true to the words that we just talked about and what the course is teaching us, then we know there's nobody out there that you got to help to do what. If you awaken, there's nobody else out there to awaken. But it's cool. I like it. I enjoy talking about it. We all like this, the teachings of the course. It's enjoyable. You have a good time. You meet people. So yeah, I have a good time, and I gotta join the calls again sometime. Just to hang out. So it's fun.
Well, thank you, Pablo, and thank you for saying that. We're glad that you enjoy it and that it's something that it's fun, and we definitely want to do some type of event with you in the future as well. So we'll definitely keep our conversations going. I know we discussed possibly doing an in-person event as well. And if you want to meet Pablo Arango, he's going to be here March 20th, folks. So that's right. All of you, you can fly from wherever you want, but San Antonio, March 20th, that is that place to be. So
that'll be fun. Yeah.
Pablo, what is your final piece of advice to everybody watching?
Man, honestly, I'm gonna speak from experience here. This year has been, I've been a lot busier with, like, kind of work wise, and I'm gonna go back to that discipline and persistence and how incredibly useful Gary's books and Ken's books, and just having that commitment. Because ultimately, when you're reading the books, that's simply an effect. That's a result of the choice that you made at the level of the mind against delusion and for truth. Anything we do with the course within the dream is symbolic of that choice that we're making to awaken from the dream. And so that would be my invitation there. My what I'm sharing with you guys is constantly reminding ourselves, like I remind myself every time I wake up in the morning and every time before I go to bed, what is my one and only purpose? My one and only purpose to attain peace and awaken back to truth. And what is my one and only function? True forgiveness and spiritual sight. And I remind myself of that all the time, all day, every time I can. And I try to stick to reading, the time, how much time each one of us do it, it doesn't matter. But I really take the time to read every night. Some, Gary's books or Ken's books or the course, but always something. It really, really keeps us kind of motivated and focused, because it's, especially at a time like this where there are so many seeming distractions out there. They come with the virus and this and that and the economy and all of this stuff. I mean, if we're being true to ourselves, we really should be. I mean, if we had attained that ultimate level, we would be completely invulnerable to that. But because we're still in the process, the mind will cling to, there will be projection onto a lot of these items. And so if we're not really focused, we'll miss out on a lot of good opportunities. Because ultimately, so we can look at that from both perspectives. One is from a level of what our experience will be. But we're not focused, and we're not focused, staying right-minded and forgiving everything every day, then we are the effect of the world, and it will kick our ass. It'll rock us every day, and we'll be riding the roller coaster of pleasure and pain every day. One day we're happy, another day we're sad, and one day or half a day I'm happy, the other one I experience rage, and then I feel sad. And that's our everyday life if we're not focused and we're not staying right-minded and doing our job. And then from the other perspective of advancing towards the end goal, which is, or the short-term goal of attaining a state of perfect peace and ultimately awakening back to our true self, to that state of perfect oneness. If we don't stay focused, if we don't do the reading every day and just remind ourselves of where we want to go and what we got to do to get there, the means, which is forgiveness, then we just are going to miss out on a great opportunity. This, from a macro perspective, and all our individual micro scripts are giving us a tremendous opportunity to advance in our spirituality right now. I mean, we can sit here and talk, oh, it's so crazy, I can do this. It's a tremendous opportunity that we have to make an extreme amount of progress spiritually, because there's so much ego content coming to the surface right now that if we do our job and keep focused, then we can take giant strides towards that final goal of awakening, to attaining peace and awakening. So that would be my final thing.
Fantastic. You're right. The enthusiasm, you got to want it. You got to want it, and keep it.
It's not an easy path. You got to want it. Yeah.
Yeah. And shout out to everybody who's on this call and who's watching the video, because you clearly want it. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. So thank you for watching. And we're going to actually stop the recording, and we do our little after hours little visit for like 5 or 10 minutes, and we talk off the record. So if you want to stay, you can stay. We're going to chat. If you have to go, we totally understand, but we're going to go ahead and unmute the lines for a second, and everyone say thank you, Pablo, and have an awesome night.
Thank you, Pablo.
Pablo.
Thank you,
Thank
Pablo.
Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, guys.
Very good.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Pablo.
Pablo.
Thank you.